Welcome to the Mismatch. I'm Chris Vernon, and joining me as he does every week from TheRinger.com is Dave Jacoby. Jacoby!
What a draft night for the Grizzlies, for Chris Vernon, for that guy at Target, and for the Mismatch podcast.
What are the chances? Seriously.
I was shocked.
So was I.
I don't even know.
So this morning, after we record this, I'm going to meet Cedric Coward and get him on my local show for the first time. And it all seems like absolute destiny. Thank you to all of the Mismatch fans that reached out via social media. Anybody that listens to this show knows. I mean, I was thinking about this all draft night. I was like, let's say the guy in Target told me that Colin Murray-Boyles is going to be the best player in this draft. Or just whoever. It could have been anybody. It could have been literally anybody. Instead, it feels like divine intervention took place. The reason it really feels like divine intervention, Memphis is not a huge city, right? I went to Target and a guy recognized me and started talking basketball with me, right? Like that happens a lot. And
you're in the basketball card section too, you nerd.
And I'm in the basketball card section. Either this guy does not have social media, doesn't, like maybe watches like Grizzly games, so like sees a commercial for the show or something. It's so bizarre. Of course, people immediately were like, you have got to get Target guy on. I have no idea where this guy is. Not one person has ever said like, hey man, I was the guy at Target. So I don't know where this human is.
He's like Moonlight Graham in Field of Dreams. He doesn't exist.
He was an angel.
He was an angel brought down from basketball heaven. He is, people talk about the basketball gods. He's one of the basketball gods. It's like Greek mythology where the gods would come down from Mount Olympus and like meddle with the humans. That is what this man is doing with you in the Grizzlies, and I love it so much.
So, all right, for anybody that is their first episode listening to the
no idea what we're talking about.
Quick little rundown. 2 months ago, I'm in Target buying basketball cards. A guy comes up to me and says, hey, everybody's trying to get these Cooper Flag cards. The best player in this draft is going to be Cedric Coward. I didn't know what he was talking about. Then about a week ago, after the Desmond Bane trade. So I was in the mode of, I'm going to take a cursory look at the draft, but I don't have to like focus in certainly on the local team because they had traded the first round pick for Marcus Smart. The Memphis did not have a first round pick. Then by virtue of the Desmond Bane trade, ended up with the 16th pick. Now it's crash course time. Roser comes up with a list. Here are the wings that have been drafted in the first round that have 7'2" wingspans. And the list was crazy impressive. And then he says, and there's this guy, Cedric Coward. And I said, oh my God. I was told that this guy was the best guy in the entire draft. Then what happened as follows is all these mock drafts start having Cedric Coward going to Memphis. So now we're all in. And of course, on the Mismatch with you, after I told you that story a few weeks ago, we became all in. It's like, what are the chances? Like, what? Honestly, this is just so bizarre that all of this lines up. And then you get to draft night, and Memphis has the 16th pick in the draft. They trade up to 11 to Portland in order to draft Cedric Coward.
They were not going to let Cedric Coward slip. Memphis was like, we need Coward. We'll pay the price because we've targeted the target and hit the target.
It's meant to be.
It was meant to be. He's guaranteed to be a 10-year Grizzly, and his number will hang in the rafters. And his nickname is the Target. You better tell him this afternoon that he is now the Target.
It's unbelievable.
This episode is presented by Intuit Credit Karma. Navigate the world of credit cards with Credit Karma's tailored recommendations. It's suitable for anyone interested in taking control of their financial journey with cutting-edge technology. Start at creditkarma.com to find cards that fit your financial lifestyle. Credit Karma, finding the right card for you.
And so draft night obviously became...
That was a celebration.
I mean, seriously, honestly, I kept thinking to myself, what are the chances that this plays out the way it does? And I cannot tell you How many people tweeted me or sent me messages on Instagram and were like, I am watching the draft, and all I could think about was this storyline. This is the craziest storyline ever. And then for it to have that ending, like, again, he could have gone to any team. Instead, he's going to be sitting in my studio in Memphis, Tennessee today.
When your team picks 4, you kind of get your guy.
Sure.
But when you're at 16, like the chances of you getting like the guy that you think your team should get or whatever are so low. He either gets drafted before it gets to you, or your team just doesn't pick him. But for this to play out like this is not only did they get Cedric Coward, they moved up just to get Cedric Coward, and not only that, Malika calls her Colin Coward on the broadcast. And I love Malika. She's a great hang on and off camera. She's a great host. I mess up on live TV constantly. And when I Googled him after our show, when you brought him up, I wrote Cedric Howard, like Howard Johnson. And then when the results came up as Cedric Coward, I was like, oh, his name is Coward, like Colin Coward. And that's what Malika did in her head. She was like, oh, Colin Coward, which makes even funnier because not only is the target guy right, is your target the target, nailed the target. It gets funnier because Colin Coward is involved. I love everything about this. It was a highlight of draft night for me personally.
Absolutely unbelievable. So as we know, it in many cases can be goofy to analyze all the winners. What the best thing about going back to drafts is seeing all the grades of the winners and the losers. And we can very well look at whether it is the NBA Finals or, frankly, any other. You can look at the All-NBA teams. You can look at the All-Star teams, whatever, and you go, whoa, now, where were these guys drafted? The all-defensive teams, on and on, right? This is, I don't want to say a total crapshoot, but certainly what happens on draft night is nowhere near indicative of how it plays out. It is not as if the NBA all-star teams, all-NBA teams, all-defensive teams are littered with lottery picks. In fact, the opposite is true, and many of the best players in our league have been drafted 15 or below.
You're watching the NBA Finals.
Right.
Alex Caruso undrafted. Hallie goes down. Who's in charge? Andrew Nemhard. Was he 55th pick? Like, who knows?
Lou Dort.
Yeah, all of this stuff. Yeah, the finals are littered with guys that aren't lottery picks.
Isaiah Hartenstein was the second-round pick. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is on another team than the one that drafted him. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. You have 3 of the guys that were massive guys in the NBA playoffs that started out, and my buddy David Thorpe was the one that brought this up to me. He goes, sometimes as a rookie, you are called to come in and you're fitting in, right? You're not the star immediately. Ace Bailey's wishes notwithstanding. You're not the star immediately. And so you have to kind of fit in. And then you may grow into, right? It may take going to another team to reach your full form. And he talked about James Harden, but then just recently, you think about Tyrese Halliburton, Jalen Brunson, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. All 3 of those guys are on their second teams, right? Moved off of the team that they were fitting into and then went to a team that they were the guy, and now look at what has taken place, right, with those 3 guys. And so sometimes it might not even be the team that you ended up with on draft night where you reach what you are actually going to become. And frankly, we know that even 3 years into the league, it's ridiculous. We make decisions on guys after their first 3 years and what their destiny or ceiling is going to be. And those 3 are even a greater example of, if I would have told you that Jalen Brunson and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are going to have chance at MVP of the league in their first 3 years in the league, you would have thought that is ridiculous. Ridiculous that those guys could have been, possible MVPs of the NBA. But here we are. So that all being said, we tried to, instead of just saying, this was a great pick, we tried to pick winners and losers from the draft coverage that we just watched over the course of the last 2 days. By the way, second round last night, why did it take like 20 minutes for it to start? Like at 7 o'clock, I tuned it in. I'm like, I got to listen to them for 20 minutes before I thought the thing started.
The second round. I understand the first round with the sort of pageantry. We don't need that for the second round. Just show me the picks.
The other thing, first round was entirely too long. Entirely too long.
Me and my wife wanted to watch Love Island, and I was like, yeah, I'll be in there. yeah. Yep. I was like, yeah, hold on. And I get into her bedroom. She's asleep.
So we're gonna give our winners and losers from draft night now that we've had a couple of days and all the dust has settled with the tapes and the grades.
Let's just acknowledge Masai Ujiri being out at the Raptors first. I mean, it's brand new
information.
All about? I have no idea. It just happened right before we taped. How do I explain? It's Larry Bird. He coached the Pacers for like 4 years, and he famously said, like, sometimes like you just like lose your voice as a coach. It's just sort of like over the course of 4 years, it's hard to sort of like maintain your voice in the locker room. It's sort of like it runs its course. It just sort of feels like the relationship between Ujiri and the Raptors and their plans post-championship, they've sort of kind of flatlined. And I imagine it's just kind of time for them both to move on. It's mutually decided to both move on.
No, I want to hear that there was like a massive yelling match about the second round of the draft.
Well,
all these executives, they're all together. Your whole basketball ops is in a room on draft night.
Oh, I like this. Then
for 2 nights in a row, they were all together. And then, like, what happened in that? I hope he beat somebody's ass or something.
I like this Real Housewives of Toronto Raptors.
Yeah.
I like this. Just start throwing drinks, screaming at people. I like this. Oh, Verno, that's a much better story than mine.
Well, all the basketball ops guys are together in one room, in the, quote, war room for 2 straight nights. Did something happen in the war room that led to this? Was this always? Because this did come completely out of nowhere.
Right after the draft. If you're gonna move on from your front office, you do so before the draft.
Right.
Because why would you bring in a new president of basketball operations, sort of like, the Parcells thing? Like, if I don't do the grocery shopping, how do you want me to cook the food? Right. I like your theory. Let's just go with that.
Yeah.
We're reporting that there was a fist fight.
Not reporting. It's just odd timing for sure. Especially when the reason it is particularly odd timing is because it makes you, when something like this is so crazy, it makes you wonder if something happened. Like, this reminds me a little bit like the Udoka thing, and I'm not saying Masai Ujiri did anything, but it's like, wait, what? Like, why? This doesn't make any sense. And how come nobody in the media saw this coming? This has not been even talked about, as far as I know.
Not speculated on. It reminds me of I believe I'm right here, when Nate McMillan signed an extension with the Pacers and they got fired like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
It's like something happened. You know what I mean? Like, how do you go from signing the extension to getting fired 3 weeks later? Like, in those 3 weeks, something happened. Right. I don't know what, but something happened. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. So we will find out. I'm sure the stories will all come out, and maybe it is nothing. Maybe it's just, hey,
we are reporting officially.
There's a brawl in the war room.
It was a royal rumble in the war room. Police were called. Ambulance were outside.
All right. So now that there's been a couple of days, all the dust is settled, and takes in the grades. Everybody's written all of their articles. We're going to do our winners and our losers. We got 3 each. My first winner. So you always wonder how the eventual champion is going to impact the draft. And we just saw a few nights ago, the Oklahoma City Thunder were the team that won the NBA championship. And then, of course, you saw the Indiana Pacers on the other side were there for a Game 7. And I have told you that building with a team in mind might be a fool's errand. That being said, certainly best practices of those teams are taken into consideration. And I do think for my first winner, Wingspan. Yes.
Wait, what's Cedric Coward's wingspan? I forgot.
7'2.5".
Oh, that's right. And he's
okay. But I will say this. If you go look up and down, one of the things, and a lot of people have written about this in the past, that I don't want to say it's Moneyball, but that the Oklahoma City Thunder, on many different occasions, have guys that are in a very high percentile of wingspan. In fact, their best 3 players for their positions Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren all apply. In fact, to wit, Oklahoma City Thunder, guess who they drafted? Thomas Sorbor, who is 6'9" with a 7'6" wingspan, and then Brooks Barnhizer, who is 6'6" with a 6'11" wingspan. By the way, white guy, Brooks Barnhizer, when you look him up, the first video that comes up on YouTube is in all caps, "Gritty as it gets, Brooks Barnhizer mixtape." So here's the deal. I think that this year, for so many years, we have been focused all on what a guy can do on offense. This year, unlike many years in the past, and I do believe this is a direct effect of the Oklahoma City Thunder, people focused less on what a guy can do offensively than almost any time I can remember in the draft. You can go up and down the list and you will find guys and they'll say, but he's not that great of a shooter, or he can't do this, or he can't do that. But what we learned from Oklahoma City, I think one of the lessons, and this might be silly to do this, because in years past, people looked at the Warriors and they said, we need the Draymond Green type, and we need guys that can shoot. And it's like, bro, you can't replicate Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. You're trying to, but you're just doing it with worse players, right? Like, that's special. So it might be silly to not care as much about. So the shooting thing, everybody has to be able to shoot. That was a big thing, and we went through that wave, right? Mm-hmm. I think the wave right now is length and defense, because what the Thunder told us was that 25% of your points can possibly come easily, where offense is not. Your offense becomes easy if your defense is amazing. And so I think what they did was help guys with wingspan and defensive acumen get higher on boards this year than ever before. That's what I would say. And so the winner becomes guys that have, because you can also go down, and if you just click on Wingspan, you'll find a bunch of names in there, and even some guys that went higher in the first round, guys that went higher in the second round, on down the line. And then go down, and you'll find shorter wingspans, and you'll find some guys that you thought were going to go higher and were higher in those mock drafts. And so it's not the end-all, be-all. Some guys with long wingspans fell. Some guys with short wingspans rose. But I do think that it mattered more this year. Your ability to defend and your ability to have length mattered more this year than in years past because of who the champion was. So the winner is wingspan and defense.
I like that. I mean, there is a direct correlation between, sort of, as you said, the Thunder winning the championship. Because I remember when the Warriors were at their peak, it was, I know he only shot 33% from three, but he shot 85% from the free throw line. If you're a good free throw shooter, right, you're rising up the boards. So I like that, because we've all listened to and read all this stuff about the first round analysis. So I want to provide something different, as you did right there. My winner, just for like the out of the box zag thinking, Brooklyn Nets. They had 5 first round picks.
This is terrible.
And when you see that, you're just like, they're obviously going to package some of these together and trade up. Like, there's no chance they draft 5 first rounders. And that's exactly what they did. And not only did they draft 5 first rounders, like, I like to gamble sometimes. And last time I was in Detroit, I was gambling. I was getting killed on the blackjack table. I was like, let me try roulette. And when I go to roulette, I'm pretty dumb and simple. I just bet like red or black, basically. And this guy comes over and just starts peppering the numbers, and ends up winning like $3,000. And I feel like that's what the Nets did. They're like, we're going to draft 5 high upside, completely flawed prospects. Like, not one of them is like a Con Canipolo. It's like, that guy's going to play for 7 years in the league. He's going to be great. At least 7 years. Like, everybody they drafted can't shoot.
Home run swings.
Everybody they drafted cannot shoot. Literally every single one. And I'll go through it quickly. They got Yegor Demin, who's like great passer, the BYU guy, Russian. You know, there's a huge Russian community in Brooklyn. Good for them. And then they got
Can I stop you? I liked him way more when I thought it was Igor.
I thought it was Igor for a long time too.
Igor's way better than Yegor.
I've already got a nickname for him. I call him Ye Gorgeous. Just let that stick. Nolan Traore, again, rose up the French league ranks. I don't know what that means. Can't shoot. Drake Powell, I kind of like this guy. Apparently, like he was like a big combine measurements hero or whatever.
Hey, guess what?
What?
Drake Powell, big wingspan.
Big wingspan.
Yes.
Then they got
wingspan pick.
Ben Seraph. And then my favorite pick is, here's my question for you is one of my favorite things about this draft was just all the tiers and like the impact on the families and blah, blah, blah. We've all seen it before. The Danny Wolf, they cut to him crying.
No. His brother was the star.
Sure,
I mean, that was like.
But here's
Steel
a question
Magnolia.
I have for you.
Well, I guess Steel Magnolias is a dated reference. What is like a Marley and Me? Like that guy just walked out of Marley and Me. That's what I
love
like.
that you're like Steel Magnolias is too old of a reference. I'm going with Marley and Me. When did that come out? 1993?
All I remember is walking out of Marley and Me, and I remember walking out of the theater and walking in the bathroom, and there were like 20 grown men,
dudes,
all of which are
in line for the
hyperventilating.
towels. Yeah.
Oh, it was the worst thing we ever saw in our life. I hated that. I hated it.
Just a secret pact, an unspoken bond, like say nothing about this.
Yes.
But Danny Wolf, here's my question for you, and we can move on because this is not that interesting. Was he crying because he hadn't been picked yet? Which is how the broadcast was treating it? Or was he crying because someone got in his ear and like, you're about to get picked?
Because I'm about to get picked.
That's
My
what I
dream
thought
is about,
too.
Yes.
But the broadcast was treating it like it was like an Aaron Rodgers situation. And I'm sitting there being like, no. Like, he's crying because he's about to walk across the stage. But anyway, I thought in Brooklyn to me is a winner because it's just like an insane tax. Just to be like, I'm going to take 5 home run swings. And if I go 1 for 5, that's a great draft for us. That's one of my winner. Your next winner.
Okay. My next winner, the Atlanta Hawks. So a few weeks ago, we were doing the mismatch, and you asked me about Trae Young and the thoughts there. And that we had talked about how they had blown out their front office. They brought one guy from the 76ers. They brought one guy from the Pelicans. They've got the new guy that's stepping up. And so what are you going to do? And I said, look, I think you've kind of got the bones of something here. I wouldn't bail on this. Like, you're not getting a player better than Trae Young back. So, like, I don't know why people are talking about moving off of Trae Young. In fact, I would try to build out around, because I've got him. I've got Dyson Daniels, who is one of the best defenders in the entire NBA. I've got Reese Shea, who came along. And the world would have been different for Atlanta last year if Jalen Johnson wouldn't have gotten hurt. And so I'm like, I got four. And so now I got to kind of build out around this. So they swing the deal and they get Porzingis. So now they got another guy that could be on the front lines with them alongside Johnson. And then they make this trade with New Orleans where they move down 10 spots in the draft, but they still got a guy a lot of people predicted as being a potential lottery pick in Asa Newell, who they had incredible familiarity with because he played at the University of Georgia, right? So
they only moved 7 spots down, not even 10.
Oh, 7 spots down. So they end up with Asa Newell. They end up with Kristaps Porzingis. Like, you look at the Hawks now, and you're going in a Eastern Conference that is going to be without Jason Tatum, without Tyrese Halliburton, without Damian Lillard. Watch out now. Like, within a week span, Atlanta looks like a team that could take the biggest jump in the Eastern Conference next year. Well, so I would say they are a huge winner.
They're a big winner. And I was scrolling Instagram, and they did one of those graphics, like Hawks projected starting 5, and had like the rotation guys underneath it. I was like, huh.
Yeah.
I was like, huh. This makes a lot of sense. Like if Kristaps gets over, the Porzingis flu, like this starting 5 makes a lot of sense. You've got Trae Young. What's his weakness? Defense. Who's in the backcourt with him? One of the best perimeter defenses in the league, at least top 5.
Yes.
And then and also got rim protection in Kristaps. Spread the floor. I'd love to see Kristaps as a better sort of lob catcher because Trae is so good at throwing that.
Right.
But I agree. And obviously it's been well covered that pick they're going to get next year is going to be nice. My next winner, and this to me is, I never shy away from talking about race. American white guys. Huge win. I'm watching the first round and they all line up. When they all line up, and I was just like, wow, there's a lot of white guys.
You thought that's a lot of Hornets.
But it's like,
dude, they took Conkinipple, Liam McNeely from UConn, and Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton. I was like, hold on, is there an edict in Charlotte?
Yeah. I love Conkinipple for the Hornets, and I also just love the idea that like LaMelo Ball and Conkinipple are going to go out to dinner. just to be a fly on the wall.
They for sure are not going to dinner.
But it's like they're not only were there so many, like there's 4 American white guys drafted in the first round: Cooper Flagg, Conkinipple, Danny Wolf, and Lee McNeely. But like these are like white guys. You know, and this isn't like Tyler Hero or like Grady Dick in some crazy suit. They're all just wearing like interview suits, you know, like a blue suit with a black tie. Like they're going to like their first job interview. It was just like, they're just like down the middle white guys and they have game. And I was just, you know, big winners. Big winners.
Rare. It's been rare.
That doesn't happen that much. Usually 1, 2, but 4 in the first round. I loved it. Shout out to the American white guys.
All right, my next winner, Spike Lee. All right, so you may be like, what? How did that make any sense? So Spike Lee has long been a long-suffering Knicks fan who got this moment in the sun with this team winning this year, and it was obviously a huge part of the Knicks celebrity row and has been for many, many years. What happened this year was celebrity row started getting huge. Even when I came to visit you for the Memphis and New York game, they at a timeout did a celebrity row. And this was on
game. That's every game.
On a lazy Monday night. And there were 15 people they had to name off. I mean, that night it was like Judd Apatow and Adam Sandler and Michael J. Fox. And it was like all kinds of people that I was like, what? On a Monday night, they're at the Knicks and the Grizzlies? So anyways, and then when we got to the playoffs, it was Chalamet. Chalamet here. Chalamet's there with Jenner. Chalamet's traveling. Ben Stiller, right, is obviously getting a lot of love, and Ben Stiller's been a long-suffering fan, so I want to leave him out of this. But Chalamet was like a big, like, he's all in on the New York Knicks, and then you started to see even more celebrities and more celebrities.
Bad Bunny is showing up. Jason Sudeikis.
Bad Bunny showing up. Jason Sudeikis. A bunch of them. And so this is the reason I'm giving Spike Lee a winner. There I am, tuned in to the second round of the NBA draft last night, and sitting in the crowd, not like away from the people, amongst the people, in Barclays Center for the second round of the NBA draft is Spike Lee in his Knicks gear.
Crazy.
This is a man that established his bona fides already. We knew when you think about the Knicks celebrity row, you think about Spike Lee. He's the first name that you think of. But I feel like that took a hit. I feel like everybody started talking about Chalamet or Stiller or anybody else, right? Spike Lee's been the guy. He's been there since a Reggie Miller choke. He's been there for both, 2 different Pacers, 20 years distance, both doing choke sides, right? And so it's like, you know what? Everybody keeps talking, and all these Knicks fans came out of the woodwork as soon as they got good, right? Soon as they got good. Now, it's easy to be a Knicks fan right now. Well, maybe not with the coaching thing, but that notwithstanding.
James Borrego.
They're good, right? They're good. And then this dude shows up at the second round of the NBA draft. It's like, oh, you're a Knicks fan?
Oh, let me say this,
Watch this.
It's not like they had 31 or 32.
No.
They had like 50.
It's
like 50.
Dude,
Mohamed Diawara? I have no idea who this person is.
I am a hardcore NBA fan. I would never sit in the Barclays Center for the second round of the NBA
if they had 31,
even if it was around the corner
50,
from my house.
It could be happening in my living room and I would be in the kitchen.
Spike Lee, you get your bona fides. That's when you win. You're the biggest NBA fan. You're the biggest Knicks fan in the world. That's not even close. You have buried all possible opponents. You showing up in Knicks gear to the second round of the NBA draft is totally preposterous.
I love Verno. I just want to celebrate you. When you put on the text Spike Lee, I had to write back like, what are you talking about? I think this is great. That was a great one. I'm jealous. You know, when people do things that they're so good, I get jealous. I'm jealous of that one. That was a great take.
My man.
My final winner is just moms. I love my mom. Moms are the best. Just like they're just the biggest winner was just like these moms are the best. They had like the story, like who was it? Edgecombe was like we had to we had generators outside the house, moms crying everywhere. Just great night for moms. Moms are winning. Why are you looking at me like that? I'm not even going to mention. You want me to say Dylan Harper's mom? That's what you want me to say. I'm trying to go the emotional tax.
That's not even what I was thinking about.
That's what you were thinking about. I saw you give me that look. Give me that look. Big night for moms. I just loved it. The hugs, the tears, the stories, big and like the outfits, the dresses, the hair. It's just a huge night for moms. I loved it. Shout out to all the moms.
All right, dude.
And Dylan Harper's mom. What's so funny?
Losers. Ace Bailey.
Woo.
So all we talked about leading up to this was what's going to happen with Ace Bailey. Like he's been projected to be number 3 forever. Is Philadelphia just going to take him and forget about it? But then all the odds told us they were going to take VJ Edgecombe. And then all the odds told us that Conca-Nipple was going to go number 4. And so then it was like, okay, well, I guess 5. But most people had them taking like Jeremiah Fears or Trey Johnson to the Jazz. And then all of a sudden it pops up. Number 5, the Utah Jazz select Ace Bailey. And everybody's like, oh, is he going to hate that? And so then people talk, and then of course, you've got the intensely awkward moment of now Ace Bailey is being drafted by the Utah Jazz, a team that, according to all the reports, was told, don't draft him. Now, the reason I am calling him a loser is because you've got to be Rich Paul. You've got to be Mark Bartelstein. You've got to be one of these guys with mega juice in the league to call Danny Ainge and say, don't do this. Okay? You can't be Omar Cooper saying, don't draft Ace Bailey, because a guy like Danny Ainge is, of course, very reasonably going to be like, or what? Or what, bro? Or what? Because if if Rich Paul calls you and says, don't draft Ace Bailey, you'll never get a clutch guy again. You're like, oh shit. Like I can't draft this guy. Like, you know what I mean? This is gonna hurt my organization for 20 years, right? Like, instead, this threat that falls obviously completely flat, and now Walter Clayton Jr., who by all accounts had a promise from Miami and was going to go 20th. He's probably not all that thrilled. I mean, there's a video, I don't know if you've seen it, but it was going around, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was basically like, hey, who's the best player of all time? The guy's like, LeBron James. Who? If you could go to dinner, who would you go out to dinner with? And he's like, Eric Spoelstra, Pat Riley, and Bam Adebayo. Like and the story goes, he worked out for the Heat and then canceled everything after it. So Walter Clayton Jr. But Walter Clayton Jr. got on a plane yesterday and flew to Utah. Ace Bailey
did the same, right? He did the same, right?
He did not. He's not even there. So what are you going to do? Hold out? It reminds me of 2 players that I have had in Memphis in the past, Tony Allen and Marcus Smart. Both will tell you the same story, that when they played for Boston, they would go into practice and they'd be in practice and Danny Ainge would show up to practice. He'd walk by and he'd be like, hey, what's up, guys? And they'd be like, hey, Danny, how's it going? He'd be like, just trying to find somebody better than you. And that was their existence. That was their existence through their time. Everybody that plays for the Celtics, Danny Ainge would constantly be saying to them, if I can find a player better than you, you're gone tomorrow. Right?
Only former players can get away with that. Only
former
players can get away with that. You have to be a former player to do that.
But I'm saying not only did he actually treat them like assets, he treated them like assets to their face, right? So if you think he gives a crap about Omar Cooper and Ace Bailey threatening him, you got the wrong Ray, as they say. And so I can't help but make him a astonishing loser because he said, according to reports, he wanted to play for the Pelicans, the Nets, or the Wizards. And the top 5 teams were told, don't draft me. And then the team drafted him. And then he doesn't even show up with the guy that got drafted later, Walter Clayton. And so now it's a wait and see. Is Ace Bailey actually going to show up in Utah? Like, what are we doing here?
He'll be there. Well, a couple things I want to add to the Ace Bailey thing is, one is he wanted to go to the Wizards, the Nets, or the Pelicans because he felt like he had the best opportunity to sort of be like a primary ball handler there. I feel like there's an opportunity in Utah to do that too.
Of course there is.
Like it's like whatever you saw as an opportunity for the Wizards or the Nets, you had that same opportunity with the Jazz. And in the broadcast, they were trying to like use his personality. Like, do you remember they did an interview with him and Dylan Harper talking about their suits or whatever? Like Ace Bailey, like such a big personality, like the man's a star in the making. And then like his interview when he gets off the stage, he's like, yeah, great night. He was just like, he was so deflated. All that personality was just out of his body.
Is this going to be the first? Is this going to be the first guy to fire his representation that is not actually representation?
I was about to say, it can't be his representation. He's going to show up. He's going to play for Utah. This is all whatever. He's probably in Utah right now as we record this.
But why would he not have flown there already? They're saying maybe Monday or the weekend. It's bizarre.
We're making too much of this. He's going to play. He's going to Utah.
No, it's a protest.
He's going to Utah, dude. Like
he's protesting.
Something tells me that he'll be playing for the Utah Jazz this year.
Okay.
My biggest loser is Joe. Not my biggest. One of my losers is Joe Dumars. Because, man, the last 24 hours, like, he's just getting dragged for this trade. And I understand it, but I just want to put this out there that there's a world. I see what he is trying to do with this.
Oh,
he's like,
no,
I'm not trying this. No, I'm not trying to defend this. I'm saying, like, if this is, I believe Derek Queen is an absolute star, and I'm going to trade Zion Williamson, then I see the vision. If it's like, I'm going to trade Zion Williamson, and I'm going to get my first round pick next year, 5 first round picks. I'm going to get a couple salary matching players, and I believe Derek Queen is going to be the future Pelican that's going to take us to the promised land. And because Zion and Derek Queen don't make sense on the same team. So I think that there might be like more clarity to this decision than than it looks like on the surface. But if he does not trade Zion Williamson.
You think drafting Queen means that we should keep an eye out for a Zion trade?
Yes.
And a reboot there.
Otherwise, this makes as little sense as everybody thinks it does. Honestly. I can't make sense of it otherwise. Because if he's going to, in a Zion package, he'll get a pick back.
All right. Okay. If you say in a Zion package, he would get a pick back from somebody, therefore, losing next year's pick is not. But the fact that next year's pick has no protections on it.
I'm not defending the trade. It was a dumbass trade to make.
No. If you are, you are the one that said that Joe Dumars is getting, like, you almost made it sound like it was unfairly ripped. I mean, this is insane. If they trade Zion and suck, now what? What if they get the number 1 pick in the draft next year?
I'm calling him a loser because he deserves it. And it's one of those things where it's
awful.
Like the Pelicans did what? Who's in charge of the Pelicans now? And then you're like, oh, Joe Dumars.
It's a terrible job. Terrible job.
I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. I'm not defending the trade at all.
Speaking of possible trade candidates this offseason, the next one for me, the loser, the Bucks. Okay.
Why's that, Verno?
Because at what point, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, like, if you're trying to piss a guy off, like it felt like for so many years that the Packers, sometimes it would feel like they are intentionally trying to piss off Aaron Rodgers, right? You know what I mean? Like not taking any receiver.
And they pick a receiver in the first round the second he's gone. Yeah.
And then they take Jordan Love. You know what I mean? And then but here's what I'll say. If I were trying to piss off Giannis, I would conduct myself in the draft like the Bucks do for his entire tenure. I went back and looked because Roser sent it to me, and he goes, "You're not going to believe this. Look back at this." So let's say 2013 is the beginning, right? So in 2014, they drafted Jabari Parker, and that obviously turned out heinously horrible. Okay. Yep. Since that time,
I just want to say about Parker, at the time, that pick seemed like a good pick. Like when I was sitting there watching my television, I was like, oh, that's going to work. Yeah. Like
for sure. Okay. If you want to give him a break on that one, you can. Since that time, 2016, in the second round, they took Malcolm Brogdon. Their first round pick, which was 10th overall, was Thon Maker. And that was a disaster, right?
Again, I love Thon Maker going into that draft.
And in 2018, they took Dante DiVincenzo. Okay, that is the entire list of guys the Bucks have drafted that have been worth a crap since they drafted Giannis. That is unbelievable. And they always take these like high upside guys that never pan out. So here we fast forward and we get to the draft the other night, and I'm like, there is no way they took a son of a bitch with braces. There's no way.
The orthodontist.
It's like Bogo. His name's Bogo. I'm like, this is great. Just get somebody that can play at some point. Bogo with braces? Now, look, you're going to be able to, if this guy turns out to be the next Giannis, this is going to be the funniest clip ever for somebody to go back to. But they took Bogo with braces. Remember last year, they took A.J. Johnson, who, by the way, they've already traded. But A.J. Johnson, everybody was like, yeah, you're going to have to wait 4 or 5 years to find out if he's any good.
Draft like the Nets.
Why?
The Nets take these big swings because they're the Brooklyn Nets and they're rebuilding and they want to hit on one of these big swings. But if you're the Bucks, you're like a championship contender, then you draft singles. Just hit a single. Have somebody that can play 10 minutes a game. That's all you need to do.
Bogo with braces. Unbelievable. Truly. You never cease to amaze me with your drafts, Bucks. Bogo.
It's a tough one. Tough one for the Milwaukee Bucks fans. This is my loser. And again, like I like zags, I like big swings, I like ballsy moves on draft night. But the Blazers, what are you doing? What are you doing? The Chinese Jokic, Hansen, Young, Hansen. Like I was like, okay, because I brush up before the draft. This guy was not on my radar. So I click on YouTube. I'm like, all right, let me see some highlights. This guy moves like he's underwater. Like, you know when you try to sprint in a pool? You're like playing pool basketball. You're trying to like sprint to get the ball, but you're going at like 1/10 speed. I mean, sure, in the highlights he makes the baskets, but he can't move.
Look at who he's playing against too. It's playing against.
It's like I remember watching Robert Parrish when I was a kid, and he would take the ball out and give it to Dennis Johnson or whatever, and then they would show the other half of the court, the offensive half of the court, and Parrish would come into the frame like when there's like 10 seconds left in the shot clock because it took him that long to run halfway down the court. Hansen, the Hansen brother. My God, this man cannot move his feet. Like, this is not going to work. I'm going to go out. You know what? I'm going to go on a limb right now and say he's not the Chinese Jokic. I'm going to go on a limb. Not Jokic, this guy.
Two things. Number one, huge wingspan winner.
Okay.
If we go back to my number one winner, right? Huge wingspan winner, Young Hansen.
Great.
I think that's why he got drafted, is his wingspan. Number two, going back, this is a good callback to the very beginning of the show. So one of the things, I will tell you a quick little story. So years ago, we're at the trade deadline, and I get a tip, and I report that the Memphis Grizzlies have traded O.J. Mayo for Josh McRoberts and the Indiana Pacers first-round pick. And they go downstairs, and they tell O.J. Mayo and the whole thing, and then they come back, and the NBA says, this trade is invalid. The facts did not come in time. the fax came through at 3:02 or whatever. Therefore, the trade doesn't happen. They've already told the guy he's getting traded, whatever. You fast forward and you look back and you go, well, I wonder what would have happened. Like, again, things never play out the way you think they're going to play out. And you go, what was that Indiana first-round pick? And then you go and track it, and you go, well, I'll be damned. They traded it to San Antonio for George Hill. Who'd they take?
Kawhi.
Yes. And so that pick, you can look at it, you go, damn it. Like, not for sure they would not have drafted Kawhi Leonard, but that's what that ends up being, right? A couple of years ago, Memphis makes a draft day trade. It's Steven Adams in the 10th pick, Jonas Valanciunas in the 17th pick. Memphis takes Zaire Williams, who has already been traded to Brooklyn. The 17th pick, I believe it was 17th, Trey Murphy. And it's like, oh my God, we're going to regret this forever. So those are all little tiny backstories for we're sitting there going, please, God, don't let 16 become one that we look back forever and it's got the little stupid Grizzly symbol next to it.
I like that.
When they drafted Young Hanson, we were like, yes, there's no chance we regret this till the rest for the rest of time.
Because at the MVP presentation ceremony, you never want to see him have a Grizzlies hat on. you know what I mean? I don't think you're worried about that. But shout to him. He's like in the upper deck of the arena too. Like he was in the stands.
Nothing was by the way, also to the if we call back to the Ace Bailey thing, you want to know why Hanson Young got drafted as high as he did? Who does he meet at the staircase?
No idea.
Rich Paul.
Oh. Oh my God.
You didn't see that?
No. Rich Paul was all over the place.
When he walked down the staircase, he's walking up with Rich Paul. I'm like, gee, oh my God.
How?
Ain't no way Rich Paul pulled this off.
It's like he was great at the combine. Like, okay. What's great measurables? Like, oh, okay.
You're not buying Chinese Jokic?
I watched the highlights. I didn't even get to the end of the video. It was like 5 minutes. I was like, I'm out. I'm out on Chinese Jokic. If these are the best clips that he has on tape, like the best ones, he looks like he's playing in my rec league.
My last loser. Girlfriends. What happened to girlfriends?
Oh.
Where are they? What happened to girlfriends?
Trying to think.
In 2025.
Walter Clayton Jr.'s girlfriend got invited because of his daughter. When we had the South Carolina kid, who was that?
Yeah, but he had. But she plays.
She plays. Yeah. And that's Colin Murray.
That's a basketball girlfriend.
Yeah.
I mean, you highlighted moms. Moms got crazy screen time.
They're great.
Because there were no girlfriends. Where are the girlfriends? These guys, I guess they're just married to the game. We should feel good about guys that are excited about becoming NBA players because evidently they play so much basketball they have no time for chicks. Where
last episode we established that young people don't drink. This episode now they don't date. They just play basketball. That's it.
Yeah, that's what they do.
That's it. Well, I think there's some foresight because like when you have that college girlfriend, you think you're gonna like get married and stay together forever. That's not how it works out. So maybe some of the uncles got in their ear and they're like, I know you love Sarah right now.
Yeah.
You think you're gonna be with Sarah forever, but you know what's gonna be forever? These pictures of you tonight. And maybe Sarah shouldn't be at the table.
Well, and also there have been two different ways that it has gone for the girlfriends in the past, right? There's like Will Levis's Gia Duddy, who becomes a star from it.
Yep. Who was it? Jan, the guy that the Wizards drafted?
Jan Vesely.
Jan Vesely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or there's
Star of the Night.
And there's some of these that become stars. And then there's the other ones like, the girl that took the phone from CD Lamb, it like ruined her life.
Oh, yeah.
Like seriously.
It's
like
a great clip.
He put up a message last year. Like basically leave her alone.
Jesus.
Like it still comes up to it's like her nightmare is that people still replay that till the end of time. Her taking his phone and him snatching it away. I mean, it's a hilarious clip. It is. But like, so I guess but they're like not together and didn't end up together. And so like you say, maybe there's a wisdom to even the current girlfriend not being there, because that's forever, right? That draft night thing is forever. And so this better be the chick you're going to marry, or else forever you're going to be hugging some hot chick that you just brought to the draft.
I think the lack of girlfriends is actually the presence of good guidance. It means you've got some uncles in your life, some older brothers, someone that pulls you to the side.
We're just doing family, kid.
You know what, man? I know you're 19. Like when I was 19, you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to marry Susan Lee. You know what I mean? She broke up with me. It broke my heart.
That was extremely specific.
Yeah. Shout to Susan Lee.
Now our listeners are going to be trying to look her up on the internet.
Oh, I've tried that. There's a lot of Susan Lees in the world. I can't find her. So if you do find her, send me her profile.
He said, I've tried that.
I've tried. I love it. I got specific information. I can't even find her. She's probably trying to hide from me. She knows I'll show up at her house.
Your last loser.
Me.
You. I agree. I agree.
The best part is there's no chance this gets to my wife, because she does not listen to the Mismatch. She's never listened to a single second of the Mismatch. She doesn't even follow me. She doesn't even watch the clips on social.
Mine doesn't either. In fact, when we went to New York and we all went out to eat, that's the first time my wife has ever seen you.
If we're going to New York, we're going to meet Jacoby. She's like, who's Jacoby?
And likewise, the first time your wife ever saw me.
Yeah.
It was an actual introduction.
I'm going to try. Today I'm going to go home and be like, Chris Vernon's coming back to town later. I should just to see if she knows who Chris Vernon is. I'll text you after I do it. I'm gonna do it for real. I'm like, Chris Vernon might be in town next weekend. I swear to God, she'll be like, who is Chris Vernon?
No, she's not. Idea. No, she's not. Because of the care package I sent for the birth of your kid.
Oh,
she'll remember me forever.
Goods. Those are some high quality goods.
Your wife went out of her way to send me the nicest message, so she'll remember me.
She will. Quick personal story aside, first time ever, I sent my 3 bigger kids to sleepaway camp, so they're not in the house anymore.
That's awesome.
So I just have, it's like literally, I have a newborn baby, which everyone says is like the hardest thing in the world. We have 2 adults and 1 newborn baby. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Yep. There's nothing. Takes 2 naps a day. Yep. Please, I'll wake up at 1 and feed you a bottle and go back to bed. Watch a little Love Island. Yep. Oh, I watched that Karen Reed trial stuff yesterday. It was amazing. All right.
You talking about the Max one?
Yeah. I binged it all yesterday.
Okay, so here's the deal. I watched the other one too. The Gone Girl chick. Sherry Papini.
Oh, all right. Give me something new. I think Sherry Papini.
Max is now getting in the business of
they're in the mud with us.
Letting the victims tell their story. This is becoming a thing. Like, you remember, and this is what's happening on those the Netflix ones too, the Untolds. Yeah. They let the guy that stole the signs from the sideline tell his story, and they let Javaris Crittenden tell his. So they get cooperation from the person you're not supposed to believe.
Yes. I told my wife.
And then they get to tell their story, and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm kind of on their side. It's very strange what's happening
I
now.
I told my wife, I was like, it's a Karen Reed story. Like, I have no idea who did it. You're going to fluctuate back and forth about whether she's innocent or guilty. But just before you watch it, I just want, because she makes documentaries like for a living.
Yep.
She's a documentary director. I was like, before you watch it, I just want you to know, this is completely one-sided. You are literally getting dressed with Karen Reed in the morning, and you're in the war room with her lawyers. This is not an objective, unbiased, journalistic endeavor. It's not that. They've got one interview with a friend of the victim, and that's the one person that represents the whole entire side of it, and they've got 45 people on Karen Reed's side. She did it. Anyway, moving on. My last loser.
You really think so?
I have no idea. I go back and forth. Yeah, I think I don't know, dude. Who knows? I don't know.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, she did it. And so did Adnan Syed. Moving on. Last loser.
Damn. I mean, you can't just
fire off these crazy, scorching hot takes and then be like, all right, moving on.
You don't think Adnan Saeed did it? I've re-listened to this with my son because I hadn't listened to Serial in forever. And I re-listened to it. I was like, oh, this dude did it for sure.
But what about the cell phone data?
What about the cell phone data?
I mean, the towers and everything. I don't know. It seems.
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. Neither do I.
I know. I know that one chick in the house at Karen Reed's thing texted, how long does it take to die in the cold?
Okay.
That's a tough one to get past.
So I just watched this. I just watched this yesterday. Here's what happens is she texted that at 2:27 a.m., right? She also misspelled how long to die in the cold at 6:54, and she did it again at 6:55 and misspelled because when you open up the tab, the data tracks back to when you open the tab. So she did those three queries and it's 6:52, 53, 54.
That's fine, but why?
But she also deleted that one too. I don't know who did it, man. I don't know.
But why is she Googling that? Who Googles that?
And the butt dials thing was tough too. The butt dials. It was just like,
I can't get past Googling how long does it take to die in the cold?
Because they just found a body in the cold.
Come on.
I don't know who did it.
Okay.
My last loser was just clarity. I was so confused when these trades happened. And I'm a television producer. Like I have the easiest thing to do is be like, oh, a trade came in. What are the details? You're in the truck. You go back to the graphics producer. You say, make a full screen with these details. It takes 35, 40 seconds, right? Yep. But we got Shams who's like reading and he's trying to get the details right, but it just came into his phone. So he's kind of confused about it too. And I'm sitting there being like, who's drafting for who, for what? And then like, why not? If you're the NBA, why not? If team A, let's like what happened with the Target. If the Trailblazers are picking for the Grizzlies, put a Grizzlies hat out there, put the Grizzlies logo up on the stage, and then just have a little note that says, Portland pick moving to the Grizzlies. Instead, it's the opposite. It's the Portland hat, the Portland logo with a tiny little bug that says this guy's actually going to be on the Grizzlies. It just doesn't make sense. If we all know he's going to the Grizzlies, we can't even celebrate the Colin Coward pick for the Grizzlies when the target gets targeted by the team we want to target the target. Why not? I want to get somebody in the room and be like, explain to me the benefit of fooling your audience about what player's going where. What's the benefit?
The other thing is, if you are watching that draft without audio, it is absolutely impossible.
Oh, no way. Again, that's why you need a full screen.
No, I'll give you an example. One of my friends was at a bar last night and was just paying attention while the Grizzlies had a late second round pick, right? And it pops up that they drafted Will Richard from the national championship Florida team. And they are, it's Jenna. Jenna is a Florida graduate. So Jenna, who works with, I know Jenna. She works with me on the show. She's a Florida grad, worked at Florida, loves the Gators, goes crazy.
Oh,
but that I had to break her heart and say that pick was been traded. That wasn't the Grizzlies' pick. So Will Richard's not going to come to Memphis. And she was like, I know. It's brutal. But that is to your point, that is the viewing experience.
But why not? Just someone explain to me why they do it that way.
It said on the screen, Will Richard drafted by Memphis.
And there's a Grizzlies logo there. And he's wearing a Grizzlies hat. Yes. Why do we do it this way? Like I just don't understand the benefits. Like as someone who worked in TV for a quarter century, I know how easy it is to make the change. And so it's like, the information came in too late. All right, we'll have Malika fill for 20 seconds while we switch the logos on the stage and switch the hats and then make a full screen. Why don't we just do that?
I knew ESPN shouldn't have gotten rid of you.
No, they probably should have. Let's be honest.
They needed
it's kind of like
in
Masai Ujiri. Like I started a fist fight. It was bad. It was bad. It was bad.
All right, last thing before we get out of here, a second round pick that we really loved. So the guy that I loved, that I was hoping was going to end up in Memphis, and then it would have been complete destiny because I would have gotten both guys that I wanted, including Cedric Coward. So this guy, Alijah Martin, and this is hysterical. Guess who he was? Alijah Martin played for, and again, shorter guy with a big standing reach wingspan. Like
Wingspan.
He is a dog, a winner, dunks on everybody. He started on the Florida Atlantic team that made it to the Final Four, and then transferred to Florida and started on the Florida team that won the national championship. I like dogs and I like winners, so I wanted this guy, Alijah Martin. And guess who drafted him last night in the second round? Masai Ujiri.
Oh, that's what happened. That started the fight. That's what started the fight.
And then his tenure in Toronto ended. But anyway, no, I love guys. He is how about this? Crazy stat. Also, by the way, an amazing high school quarterback in Mississippi.
Oh, I love that.
So he's a football kid. And he's the only player to ever start on 2 different Final Four teams. That's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
True story, though. Alijah Martin. I think Toronto got a big one there.
I'm not a huge college basketball guy. I'm not a huge prepare for the draft guy. I'm an NBA guy. I spend most of my mental energy sort of focusing on NBA basketball. But sure. I do tune in to big college games. It's Saturday afternoon. I'm sitting on the couch. I love basketball. Yeah. I'll tune in. And every time I see Auburn, Broome is just getting bucket after bucket after bucket. And it's just I know he's 35 years old. He's got a receding hairline, but it's he looks like the best player on the floor every time I turn on the game. And I'm just
and the SEC was amazing.
Yeah. It's just, I think it was the SEC player of the year, right?
So you know what this reminds me of? This reminds me, because Daryl took him.
He's a Sixer.
It reminds me of Daryl taking Carl Landry, Chuck Hayes. These are all those kind of guys. And so it's hey, guess what? This guy's going to be able to play a role and be good. Right?
I'm sitting on my couch watching this guy score 3 straight possessions. So I'm looking up his draft rankings or whatever. And it's I thought he'd be a lottery pick. It's nope, he's trash. Don't even need him. Not a second round pick. I'm I don't know, man. I'm watching him play basketball. He seems like a good basketball player. I don't know. Call me crazy.
Hey, also, big wingspan.
Big wingspan. Big wingspan.
Big wingspan.
Big
All right.
wingspan.
All right. There's our winners and losers from the NBA draft. Thank you to our executive producer, Jesse Lopez, as always. Thanks to Tucker on the video. And Jacoby, I'll talk to you next week.
Must be 21 and over and present in select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and over and present in D.C. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.